Global civilization. The rise of insects. Introduction. What is the meaning of life? From a genetic perspective, it is a continuation of the population. From the perspective of ideology, personal value, social value, and self-affirmation are all based on the satisfaction generated by continuing the ethnic group. What is the meaning of a person when they are a tribe? Yiyi Black Thorn. Important notice. No eunuchs. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The grades of this new author's book are not important. The main focus is on practicing writing skills, as the author's brainstorming skills led to accidentally sending out the manuscript, 1-to-1. Originally, I planned to practice 50 or 60 chapters first, but now there are not many people reading it, and there is a high probability that I won't be able to sign a contract. Subsequent updates will be updated by chance, and that's it. Level system, just take a look at the settings. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Quality. The types of troops, materials, weapons and equipment, etc., technology, and talents are divided into white, green, blue, purple, orange, gold, and red. Subdivision. Divided into 3 sections. Shallow, positive, and deep. Special. Black, silver, variant. Black. For the ultimate, it is the product of completing ultimate research and the endpoint of a technological line. The ultimate manifestation is that the current color has changed from silver to black, and its strength is enough to fight against the quality of the times, which is the ultimate technological endpoint without any one. Note. Ultimate technology will only appear after completing at least light orange and above extreme technology, silver. Extreme technology is the limit that can be achieved by the characteristic technology of the current era, such as Stone Age stone technology, which requires the completion of extreme technology. Manifested as. The existing ribbon silver is actually the most powerful in every era. Breaking the limit. It is extremely difficult to only appear in units below the light orange quality, and it requires the joint action of multiple extreme technologies of the era to produce it. This will enable the extreme units of the era to break through the highest quality of the era and improve by one level, such as purple rising to deep blue rising to purple. It can only be done once. Breaking the limit manifests as a band. Variant. Product under BUG. When a civilization discovers a bug and conducts research, it will generate a special point. Once completed, it will enter the special era. In the special era, the level of the era will still be the original owner's era, but the quality limit of the era will increase, and its special types of troops will be half to 1 level higher than the original era, with different levels depending on the size of the bug and the level of research. Manifested as. Special variant colors, depending on the type of bug, such as rose blue, yellow white, dark green, etc. Threat and level classification basis. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Division. The classification of levels is based on the technology and combat power, destructive power, added during the manufacturing of the judging unit. Unless it is a limit-breaking unit or has been added with special technology, the highest level will not exceed the maximum limit of the era. The unit also needs to increase talent judgment. Some talents are brought by technology, but in the early days, most of them were obtained through training. Combat effectiveness assessment. The quality, volume, age, talent, and even state can all affect the outcome of a battle. Quality. In the same era, even if there is only a difference of 1 grade, the difference between high-quality units and low-quality units will be significant. Size. It is normal for some combat units to have the same quality as another unit, but if a single blue soldier is significantly inferior to a blue warship or legion. Era. The gap between eras is also a decisive factor, and crucial, in combat effectiveness. In cross-era combat, the gap between quality and volume will be narrowed. The quality gap under the era gap has narrowed. For example, in the Stone Age, the Limited Division, the Panther Warrior, light purple, and in the Fire Age, the Division, the Colonial Team, blue. In terms of quality, the Panther Warrior surpasses the Colonial Team by one major level. However, in combat, the number of victories of the Panther Warrior against the Colonial Team is limited, and the mortality rate is extremely high. The reason is that the Colonial Team's era is 3 eras longer than the Panther War, and the quality gap has been narrowed to almost exceeding the level. The training difficulty of the Panther Warrior is extremely high, while the training difficulty of the Colonial Team is very low. And the Leopard Warriors can be said to be the highest limit that can be achieved in the Stone Age with non-specific technology, while the Colonial Team is just an ordinary branch of the Firearm Age. This is how the quality gap will be suppressed under the gap of the times. The size gap under the era gap has narrowed. For example, in the Iron Age, the Roman Empire's Roman Legion, light orange, 100,000, and the Electric Vehicle Age's Heavy-Fired Infantry Brigade, purple, 5,000, with sufficient supplies, the Heavy-Fired Infantry Brigade was basically overwhelmed. What is the reason for this? I think everyone knows. Talent. Innate and acquired through technology or satin training, but can also be lost for various reasons, such as losing legs after brisk steps like the wind. Talent can be divided into both Huanding talent and non-Huanding talent. Huanding talent. It is an acquired talent that is difficult to lose due to natural or non-external factors. It is a few books of Huanding. Non-Huanding talent. Generally, the training gains will gradually disappear over time, if well trained. After years of training, it is possible to become a Huanding talent. Size. Different types of troops have different sizes, such as a group fighting against single units of the same quality, and their combat power cannot be equal. Group. A large number of units are combined under the command of a unified division. If there are more people than a certain quantity, the quality will increase. For example, light white refugees can form light blue refugee groups, but low quality basic units will determine the launch of the group. Status. Divided into two types. Good and bad. Good. The quality is the same as basic. It will change over time. Bad. Quality is divided into gray, light, positive, and deep. It will change over time, and if left unchecked, it may solidify. Preface. The beginning of all things. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. At night, in a small camp in a forest outside the city. The drizzle in the sky gives the forest at night a unique charm. A young man wearing a black raincoat is anxiously on the phone. Damn it. The signal in this damn place is so bad that no one has answered for half an hour, the young man muttered, but his gaze remained on his phone. Hello, who? The phone answered and a pleasant female voice came in. Jing is me. Zhou Yan. The young man was clearly excited and his voice trembled. Oh. Zhou Yan, what's going on? Tell me if you have anything. A female voice came from the other end of the phone. Jing, don't hang up yet. Didn't I hear from you a week ago that you wanted to have a camping experience? I was specifically in the forest outside the city, Zhou Yan said before being interrupted by a female voice on the other end of the phone. I'm sorry, Zhou Yan. As you know, I've been feeling unwell lately. What's your concern this time? As the female voice spoke, Zhou Yan quickly spoke up. How could it be? Jing, you must take good care of your body, drink plenty of hot water, and I will visit you in a while. Before Zhou Yan finished speaking, the female voice quickly stopped. All right, I'm taking a shower and going to bed right away. You can come back next time. By the way, did Chanel just release a new bag yesterday? Said the female voice in Su's voice. That bag. It seems very expensive, right? Zhou Yan said hesitantly. But they really love that bag, wouldn't you not buy it for them? The female voice coquettishly asked. Jingjing. You know, my family is not well off and I have been working hard to study that bag. Zhou Yan was interrupted by a female voice before finishing his sentence. Alright, I knew you didn't like people. I got angry and fell asleep. Before Zhou Yan could reply, he hung up the phone across from him, leaving Zhou Yan stunned. What should I do? Jingjing won't ignore me in the future, will she? It's all my fault for making her angry, but I really can't do anything about that bag. Zhou Yan sighed with a clear expression of disappointment. Jingjing is so kind that she won't understand my difficulties. I will come to my door tomorrow to apologize to her. Zhou Yan comforted himself while waving his hand to cheer himself up, his tone very excited. After comforting himself, Zhou Yan began to tidy up the things in the camp. 1111111111 Bayshire, located in a high-end apartment in the city center. A blond man is venting his dissatisfaction by calling a woman by the bed and Zhou Yan. By Jingjing. I'll give you 3 seconds and explain to me what happened to that man just now. The blond man roared at Bai Jingjing. Chunga. Listen to me explain that I have nothing to do with him, that's just a stinky licking dog. He came up on his own. Are you saying that my first time was with you? Bai Jingjing quickly explained to the blond man. That's right, but it's better for you to stay away from him. By the way, don't you like that new bag? Go to my dad's store tomorrow to pick it up, and I'll say hello in advance. The blond man spoke softly to Bai Jingjing when he heard her explanation. Thank you, Brother Cheng. Bai Jingjing was overjoyed. Thank you for what? As long as you listen well, what do you want? The blond man said as he hugged Bai Jingjing beside him. Chinga hates it, Bai Jingjing said without any resistance. With a click, the bed light was turned off, and at the same time, strange noises began to make from the bed. 111111111111 On the other hand, Zhou Yan has already packed up the items in the camp. Just preparing to leave for home, the light rain suddenly turned into a rainstorm. Zhou Yan cursed ominously and prepared to return to the tent to shelter from the rain. Suddenly, he froze in place and began to laugh, with a very sad smile. 20 years ago. My Zhou Yan went back 20 years ago. Ha ha ha, the heavens never stop me. Chen Ping, Fang Qingyang, wait for me, and Bai Jingjing, that despicable woman, betrayed me. Now that I'm back, none of you can run away. I'll make life worse than death for each of you. Zhou Yan stood in the rainstorm and roared like a devil returning from hell. Suddenly, a purple meteor flashed across the sky. Ha! This is... Zhou Yan exclaimed in surprise as he became ecstatic. This is... That's right, it's almost there to start, haha Tianzhumi. Zhou Yan laughed wildly. Chen Ping, Fang Qingyang, Bai Jingjing, even the heavens don't intend to let you go. I actually bumped into a heavenly gift. That's all treasures above orange. Zhou Yan excitedly began to rush towards the direction of the meteorite's fall. Not long after, Zhou Yan arrived at the landing point of the meteorite. Standing outside the crater and looking around, one can see an irregularly elliptical meteorite with cracks lying in the center of the crater. The cracks are emitting a faint purple light, making it clear at first glance that it is not an ordinary object. What type is this? Mineral type, equipment type or not? Zhou Yan thought for a while before shaking his head. After thinking for a while, he couldn't come up with a reason, so he decided not to think about it. Forget it, no matter what it is, this is a divine artifact that leaked out from there in the early stages of the descent. At least it's orange. You should know my past life. Zhou Yan muttered to himself as he wrapped the meteorite in his raincoat. Zhaozuiyuan.com After wrapping the meteorite, Zhou Yan first looked around and then squinted his eyes to start thinking about his next plan. This was a habit he had developed over the years in his past life. Before Zhou Yan could finish speaking, he let out a bitter smile. Damn it, what do I want to do with this Bai Qi that eats inside out? If it weren't for that. Zhou Yan muttered to himself for a while before getting up and holding the meteorite wrapped in a raincoat in his arms, walking towards the road outside the forest. On the inter-provincial highway in the forest, a young man was carrying a black bag and braved the rainstorm. This young man was Zhou Yan. Almost. Just wait for me to go back and study and understand its function. Zhou Yan glanced at the package in his arms as if thinking of something brilliant, his face flushed, and he murmured to himself. Two dazzling white lights quickly rushed towards Zhou Yan, who instinctively covered his face with his hands. With the sound of rubber rubbing against the ground and a piercing whistle, a large truck swiftly drove towards Zhou Yan's sight. It hurts. Why haven't I avenged myself yet? Zhou Yan, who was lying in a pool of blood, heard a faint curse and a figure walking by. Zhou Yan wanted to see who this person was, but couldn't lift his head. Did you break your neck? I'm really unhappy. As Zhou Yan was dying, he thought of a woman he should have hated very much, Bai Jingjing. It wasn't the way she looked when she recited her judgment, but the first sentence a girl said to that inexperienced young man when she first met him, "Hello. My name is Bai Jingjing, can we get to know each other?" Zhou Yan murmured in a voice even quieter than a mosquito, thinking of this. When did you change and I don't know each other since then? Subsequently, Zhou Yan's consciousness gradually dissipated and soon went silent. Complete the book. Chapter 1. The Intersection of Fate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. On the road in the forest outside the city, heavy rainstorm is falling in the sky. Normal humans and animals are now hiding in warm homes or nests to avoid the rain. This harsh weather makes wise people and animals unwilling to come out and move around at this time without any special reason. Brushing, a heavy truck quickly passed by on the road, and a young man in his 20s was sitting in the driver's seat cursing the weather. I am really XXX, this dog X raised XX. If this kind of work is pushed onto me, is it easy for Fong Yang to bully me? The young man cursed loudly. Without any special reason, no one would want to go out in this weather, it's obvious that Fong Yang has it. His reason is simple. Money is because he is short of money, the kind he is very short of. Fong Yang graduated from a third-tier university at the age of 21 and was born at the Beijing Welfare Institute. These conditions forced him to come and find a job as soon as he graduated. Because although the welfare institution did not provide much financial support for his previous life, he still had to repay it, which further worsened his already poor financial conditions. I really appreciate those guys, it's only a small amount of money for a single order on a rainy day, Fong Yang scolded, but he understood in his heart that only this kind of order can make him a newcomer. His childhood experiences made him better understand the ups and downs of human relationships and the hardships of life, so he still took on this order. The rainstorm was still falling, but Fong Yang did not scold, but sighed, and silently turned on the wiper and the headlight. As the headlights turned on, two beams of light pierced into the darkness ahead. Fong Yangxian was absent-minded when he listened to the wiper and watched the continuous rainstorm outside the car. A black dot suddenly appeared in front of the car, waiting for Fong Yang to come to his senses before realizing that it was a young man. Fong Yang immediately pulled the brake and horn. It's too late, Fong Yang's experience told him that he couldn't avoid this distance on a rainy day. With a piercing sound and a piercing whistle, the truck unexpectedly crashed into the young man. Fong Yang quickly opened the car door and got off the car, cursed ominously, and ran towards the young man. Fong Yang understood that his actions at this time were likely to cause him to lose all his money or even go to jail, but he still did it. He was not a good person, but at least he was not bad at the moment. It's impossible to go to jail for nothing, it's impossible to be fined. I don't have a penny anyway, Fong Yang thought to himself and shouted to the young man in the pool of blood, "Hey! What's your name? Are you still angry?" The young man looked up as if he hadn't heard it clearly, but he murmured a few unclear words before making a sound. Fong Yang said, "Dot." Fong Yang put his hand under the young man's nose and was out of breath. "I'm dead." Fong Yang frowned as he began to think about what to do now and whether to dig a pit to facilitate the disposal of the body. Not long after Fong Yang thought about it, Shi Guang suddenly noticed that the pool of blood on the ground had shrunk. Not being washed away by heavy rain and flowing slowly towards the young man in the middle like a reflux. What kind of ghost? Is this going to be a fake corpse? Fong Yang said inexplicably. Later, Fong Yang found a wooden stick and poked the young man's body. Seeing no response, he bravely flipped the young man's body over. I saw that it was a somewhat young master's face, which should be about the same age as Fong Yang. Damn it, this face is just a little worse than mine. I don't know why Fong Yang thought of this first. No, it's not right. Fong Yang shook his head to remove any distractions and began observing other places. As Fong Yang looked at the young man, his body was covered in blood and flesh, but his hands and chest were fine. In the young man's arms, there was a black bag emitting a faint purple light. What is that? Fong Yang's pupils contracted slightly and held the black package in the young man's arms in his hand. Quickly unpacking the package revealed an irregular oval shape with cracks, which emitted a purple light at the crack. Fong Yang carefully examined the object and found that the cracks on it suddenly grew larger, and the purple light began to shine. The black stones on top slowly fell off. Fong Yang's pupils contracted slightly. He just realized that this thing seemed to jump a moment ago, but when he was about to throw it away, it stuck to his hand like glue. What the hell is this? Fong Yang cursed and began to regret his reckless behavior earlier. As the crack expanded, the stone jumped faster and faster. It's best to hear only a click as it split in half, and a purple light appeared from it. Before Fong Yang could react, the purple light collided and quickly integrated into his body. At this moment, Fong Yang looked bewildered and somewhat at a loss. Everything that had just happened was too beyond his understanding. Just as he was about to do something to verify what he had just received, two white beams of light fell from the sky and covered him inside. The next moment, he disappeared into place. When Fong Yang regained his senses, he found himself standing on a grassy spot in the forest. A mechanical sound sounds in his ear to activate the civilization module, assign personal information templates, and welcome you to the civilization simulation system. Chapter 2. Crossing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fong Yang in the forest is recalling the scene that just happened. So I've traveled through time? Fong Yang asked in confusion. Strictly speaking, your entire civilization has crossed over. An emotionless electronic voice answered Fong Yang's doubts. The guidance time has 30 seconds left, an electronic sound quickly interrupted the silence. When Fong Yang was about to inquire about the electronic sound indicated that the guidance time was almost over. Fong Yang opened his mouth and asked the last question. Who are you again? The electronic sound fell silent for a moment, during which a sound of electric current seemed to be emitted, indicating whether to answer this strange question. After a while, the electronic sound of main brain only spoke 2 words before falling into silence with a large amount of electric current sound. Hey, say it's refreshing. Fong Yang was speechless, as if he had played with the electronic music. Fortunately, the electronic voice quickly recovered, the guidance time has ended, the dialogue module has been closed, and the transmission of information templates has begun. As the electronic sound fell, Fong Yang's back of the head felt as if someone had hit him hard with a sledgehammer, causing him to faint. Returning to the present, Fong Yang covered the back of his head with his hand and tried several times before slowly standing up. Just now, he had a lot of memories in his mind, making him feel a headache now. Fong Yang paused for a moment before starting to flip through the extra memories in his mind. These memories seemed to have been forcibly copied and pasted in an extremely rough way, appearing extremely stiff and out of place with other memories. After watching for a while, Fang Yang gradually understood his current situation, which made him momentarily unsure whether he was lucky or unlucky. Good news, he has traveled. The bad news is that everyone on Earth has traveled through it. More precisely, the Earth's civilization has been selected by an existence called the Civilization Simulation System to participate in an experiment called Civilization Simulation. As mentioned above, everyone should be assigned an initial civilization by the system, me. Fang Yang looked at the surrounding environment, which was deserted. Apart from his current grassland, there were only trees of the same color around. Fang Yang remained silent for a moment and decided to consider other issues before considering where his initial civilization was. System. With Fang Yang's light call, a semi-transparent fluorescent blue panel appeared in front of him. Name. Fang Yang race. Carbon-based human, yellow, gender. Male template. Tianxian template talent. Strategist, dark green, life potential, light purple, biomass industry L.shape structure, transforming, light purple/purple, threat value. 1.5, this unit standard is 1, the destructive power of a normal adult male comment. I didn't expect you to be so excellent. You have exceeded 85.6% of the selected candidates in this batch. Keep up and keep an eye on you, young man. Fang Yang was stunned. Not to mention those strange talents, the threat value was not right. According to Fang Yang's memory just now, his threat value reached 1.5 without any equipment. Don't think that 1.5 is very small. This means that if Fang Yang wears full body armor, he can reach 1.8 with just one more weapon. In ancient times, he was a 100-person enemy, and even a few hundred people did not have his physical fitness. This is already close to the normal limit of the human body. Threat value, also known as combat power, is the maximum destructive power data that includes experience, physical fitness, strength, and equipment. That is to say, Fang Yang can currently unleash the maximum power of a semi-adult man with just one punch, which can be considered abnormal. This is not very scientific, I almost never exercise. I am so strong now. Fang Yang frowned and looked at the talent column on the panel, which had two very different talents hanging on it. Chapter 3. Messenger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fang Yang feels that the problem lies in those two inexplicable purple talents. Not to mention the stimulation of life potential, is the biomass L.shape structure something that a normal person can have. Quality is applicable to item professions, talents, and technology. It is divided into 3 levels. White, green, blue, purple, orange, gold, and red. Each color has 3 levels. Light, positive, and deep. After thinking for a while, Fang Yang decided not to think, anyway, at least this is beneficial to me now, that's enough. Thinking so much won't change it. Fang Yang understood that the most important thing at the moment was not his strange combat power, but where was his initial civilization. System, Civilization Panel. Fang Yang attempted to open the overall civilization panel. The panel changes to display lines of text and a small map. Civilization. Aztec structure. Tribal theocracy leader. Wugu scale. Large horde ethnic group. Ancient carbon-based humans, yellow, belief. Mysterious worship, Pan, Yang. Please contact the current leaders of civilization for specific information. Fang Yang was stunned, he could see that the situation was abnormal. Fang Yang doesn't know what the initial civilization of others is like, but his initial civilization is definitely problematic. Besides, what kind of ghost is this other civilization leader? Due to the distance between the celestial chosen and the initial civilization, the Aztec civilization has dispatched a messenger. Please patiently wait while the celestial chosen remains in place. The system prompt suddenly sounds. Oh, that's so thoughtful. Fong Yang said, and after 2 hours, he asked the system, how long until the receiver can come? We have opened the tracking map for the selected person. Please be patient and wait. Fong Yang glanced at the map, which was 1 kilometer away from the destination. Another hour later, Fong Yang looked at the almost motionless red dots on the map, and then looked at the distance of 998.3 meters from the destination. Fong Yang felt his scalp tingling. Don't you welcome me? Fong Yang frowned, and he had already guessed what was going on. Fong Yang waited for a while and found that the red dot had moved another 0.3 meters. I see, that's why. Fong Yang looked at it for a while and then figured out all the key points. Fong Yang glanced at the personal panel and saw that the transformation of the biomass L-shape structure in the talent column had reached 99.9%. The next moment, Fong Yang let out a muffled groan, and just as he was hit hard by a heavy hammer on the back of his head. This time it's not as tough as last time, or have I begun to get used to it? Fong Yang rose, starting to check the extra memory in his head. I'm not a human anymore, what's the situation? Fong Yang was shocked. Who could have thought that 3 seconds ago he was still a purebred human, and 3 seconds later he became an alien? System. Fong Yang quickly called out the system panel. Name. Fong Yang race. Unknown gene mixture, carbon-based race 36.4% per uncoupled gene 63.6%. Gender. Male template. Tianxian template talent. Strategist, dark green, biomass worker L-shape structure, purple, small spiritual power core, deep purple, threat value. 1.4, this unit standard is 1, the destructive power of a normal adult male introduction. You should understand that not being a good person sometimes does not necessarily mean strengthening, but can also mean weakening. Fong Yang glanced at the brief introduction, which was very insightful. Ignoring Pippi's introduction, Fong Yang began to recall the inheritance he had received before, which originated from the meteorite he had received before, more precisely, the heart of the swarm. That meteorite is the heart of the swarm. The source of the heart of the swarm is very strange. It is not produced by the civilization system, but by a quasi-god level civilization Zerg in the universe. This is an insurance created using its own spiritual source only when the main perceiving insect group in the Zerg race is likely to perish. Its function is to inherit and ensure the continuity of the ethnic group, and Fong Yang is the lucky one who won the heart of the insect swarm. Chapter 4. Thank you. That unknown stranger. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing this, Fong Yang suddenly thought of the young man who had been knocked out by the former owner of the swarm heart. He then thought about the opening conditions for the swarm heart. Absorb 1 unit of biomass, about 1 adult, and bind it to the strongest life breath within the last 100 meters. Fong Yang suddenly felt a little nervous. Thank you. That unknown stranger, Fong Yang thought silently. After understanding the causes and consequences, Fong Yang didn't care about the fact that he wasn't human anymore. With his intention, the race column on the panel was corrected to be called the quasi-insect emperor in the heart of the insect group, as unknown genes mixed together, it sounded a bit like a hybrid. Seeing his race being corrected, Fong Yang felt a sense of satisfaction in his heart. He may not be human, but at least he cannot be a bastard. Subsequently, Fong Yang continued to explore the inheritance of information, and during this period, he also took some time to look at and track the map at 997 meters. Fong Yang was completely speechless. He was curious about what this Shoer had been doing for so long, wasn't she bored? Suddenly, Fong Yang saw the red dot approaching him at an unprecedented speed. In no time, Fong Yang saw a panicked original historian girl running out of the forest, along with a bear behind her. Heavenly Elector, please help. It seems that she saw Fong Yang, a primitive girl, shouting at him. Fong Yang. Giant bear. It seemed unexpected that there would be a giant bear who was stunned for a while, but immediately roared and charged towards Fong Yang. Fong Yang covered his face and didn't expect that the envoy would be like this. Invisible spiritual threads shot into the ground from Fong Yang's body, and soon swarms of ants, centipedes, and other insects appeared on the ground. Under Fong Yang's control, these insects quickly surrounded the giant bear, and soon the bear found it difficult to support and fled into the forest. Before leaving, they even glanced at Fong Yang. Fong Yang was surprised. Has this bear become a sperm? Just as Fong Yang was thinking about it, the girl next to him suddenly spoke up and said to Fong Yang, "That day's selector, did you just do that?" Fong Yang turned around and looked at the girl. The girl's face has the simplicity and youthful vitality unique to ancient times, with a symmetrical figure and healthy wheat-colored skin. Her thighs have many muscles, but due to her long legs, it does not damage her beauty. "Did you see your chest?" Fong Yang widened his eyes and repeatedly confirmed, then looked at the girl's neck. Confirmed to be female, Fong Yang murmured to himself. "Lord Tianxian, what are you thinking?" The girl looked at Fong Yang and asked curiously. "Unfortunately, you're not big enough," sighed Fong Yang. "Girl, cough, it's nothing. I forgot what I said just now," Fong Yang said to the girl with a red face. "Oh," the girl exclaimed, indicating that she knew. "Oh, by the way, I don't know what your name is yet." Fong Yang quickly interrupted the conversation. "Lord Tianxian, my name is Li. The tribe specifically sent me to pick you up from the tribe," said the young girl Li to Fong Yang with a hint of cunning in her eyes. "Oh, really? Did the tribe ask you to steal honey?" Before Fong Yang finished speaking, he quickly spoke up, "What kind of honey is there?" "You don't need to wipe your mouth first." Fong Yang looked at Li and began to think about how that old Yinbai named Wu Gu would send such a person. "Ah." Li quickly wiped his mouth with his hand and found no honey on it. Watching Fong Yang at a loss, he only wanted to know what the situation was over there. You won't remember me for such a small matter, Lord Tianxian." Li stared at Fong Yang's eyes for a while. Chapter 5. Insect God. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Fong Yang looked at Li, who was staring at him, and suddenly smiled and asked, "Who sent you?" Li stood still and answered honestly, "It's the Great Witch Festival." Fong Yang began to sneer not because of Li, but because of the Great Witch Festival. From the scriptures, Fong Yang could guess that this was the Wu Gu who had not yet met. The reason why Fong Yang sneered was because of Li's attribute. Name: Li. Race: ancient carbon-based humans, yellow. Gender: female. Template: horde archer, dark white. Talent: greedy, white. Bow technique, green. Spear technique, light green. Equipment: wooden bow, white. Beast skin coat, gray. Stone dagger, gray. Arrow bag, 12 stone arrows, gray. Power value 1.2. Cracked wood. Introduction: a girl with good combat skills. Fong Yang probably knows why Li was sent to pick him up, and it is obvious that the opposite side counted Li. This foodie will be attracted by the honey, thus achieving indirect results, the effect of hanging him here. It has to be said that this move is very advanced. If someone else did it like this, Fong Yang and his team would completely tear their faces apart. Fong Yang was thinking about suddenly leaving as if he was ready to take out something from his bag and hand it to Fong Yang. "Then, I'll divide the honey into half for you. Don't complain to Grandpa Wu, okay?" Li turned his head away as if he had made a difficult decision and didn't look at the honey in his hand. "No need, you can eat it yourself." Fong Yang looked at Li quickly collecting the honey, afraid that he would change his mind. Faced with the girl with fish lips, Fong Yang was speechless. Watching Li happily eating honey there, it was obvious that this foodie had not yet realized that she had been calculated. If Fong Yang wanted to pursue the matter of him being hung up, this foodie would be the strongest scapegoat to ease the relationship. Li, should you take me to the tribe? Fang Yang smiled and said to Li, who was already enjoying his meal. Li was stunned for a moment, then Yang waved and walked towards the forest. On the way, Fang Yang asked Li, by the way, won't you introduce me to the tribe? Li just finished a bite of honey and said to Fang Yang in a vague voice, oh, I almost forgot, our tribe. After listening for a while, Fang Yang realized that this girl didn't even know any important information. When asked about Wu Gu, he also said, Grandpa Wu. He's so kind. This kind of nonsense, Fang Yang said he sold this girl and she even helped him count the money. If this is kind, Fang Yang can use his head as a ball to kick. Upon hearing that Fang Yang had lost hope for the intelligence from Songli, and that Fang Yang had discovered that the young girl still had a nagging attribute, he had already listened to it 3 times. In the forest, the person next to Fang Yang kept talking. After thinking for a while, Fang Yang used his spiritual power to control the surrounding insects and follow behind them. This is a technique obtained by Fang Yang from inheritance to manipulate spiritually weak insects through spiritual energy, but it sounds beautiful but has significant limitations. Firstly, manipulating these insects puts a lot of pressure on Fang Yang. With Fang Yang's current mental strength, he can only manipulate a maximum of around 1,000 small insects and cannot perform precise operations. Although he has various flaws, this is also Fang Yang's strongest means at present. As for Fang Yang's strong physical fitness, he has a B number in his heart. It is difficult to say whether he can survive his life and death battles with his zero combat experience. Quickly, he led Fang Yang to a village where an old man and a group of young men were standing outside. Grandpa Wu. The old man led by Li shouted. The old man nodded to Li and met Fang Yang, his gaze full of scrutiny and hostility. Fang Yang squinted his eyes and glanced at the old man across from him. He saw the old man wearing animal skin and holding a wooden staff in his hand. His hair was gray, and his face was lined with wrinkles. What impressed him was that his eyes were not cloudy but sharp like eagles, full of shrewdness. You have still come to the heavenly selection. You are not welcome here, so you should leave. The old man sighed and said in a very regretful tone. Don't talk nonsense to him about the Great Witch Festival. We don't have any extra resources for this kind of worm to enjoy. If he doesn't leave, we'll unite and drive him away. A strong man next to the old man took out a stone and shouted at Fang Yang. Fang Yang watched the two of them perform silently throughout the entire performance. Lord Tianxian, this is not what Uncle Hunter meant for me, was interrupted by a strong man before he could finish speaking. Needless to say, Li, we won't welcome him. Just as Li was about to continue, he was stopped by Fang Yang. Done. Fang Yang said to the crowd across from him. The strong man widened his eyes and was about to scold Fang Yang, but was stopped by the old man. I said you're not welcome here, Tianxian. The old man calmly looked at Fang Yang, which means you can't refuse me. Fang Yang replied with a smile. The old man was stunned, and the strong man sighed and waved his hand. Everyone from behind took out their stone spears and aimed them at Fang Yang. Why bother? If you retreat from the heavenly way and reassign the tribe to you now, why bother fighting with us? Fang Yang still smiled and said, even though you don't welcome the heavenly selection, when did I say I was a heavenly selection? The strong man hesitated for a moment and was about to continue speaking when the old man next to him quietly stepped on his foot, and he stopped talking. Fang Yang said, you may not believe it, but I am actually an envoy of the insect god. The insect god sent me to lead the tribe. Chapter 6. Fate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Fang Yang finished speaking, his spiritual ability moved and all the insects he had controlled along the way appeared behind him, surrounding Fang Yang. The tribes across from each other threw down their weapons and knelt down, shouting loudly, the great Warobo, worm god, is on the ground. The strong man's face showed shock and pulled at the old man's clothes. Enough, let's go back to the tribe. I want to have a good conversation with the envoy of the insect god. The last sentence the old man almost gritted his teeth and said. 1111111111 In a secluded place in the forest, the old man and Fang Yang are conversing here. First of all, let me introduce myself. I am the great witch festival of Aztec, Wugu. Wugu stared at Fang Yang and said. Fang Yang, where did you know about the worm god? We never actively mention him, we never do. Wugu gradually calmed down and asked, staring at Fang Yang's eyes. It's very simple. Upon observation, I found that Li carefully picks out and releases bee pupae while eating honey, and she is very respectful of various insects, Fang Yang replied lightly. Observing. Wugu vented his anger and muttered to himself, then the other person waved his hand to indicate that he wanted to ask something quickly. By the way, what kind of god is the insect god? Fang Yang asked Wugu. You don't know. Wugu laughed incessantly as if he had heard something funny. Fang Yang frowned and remained silent. You don't know, you dare to call yourself his divine envoy. This is the extremely evil god who claims to be the greedy devourer of the world. Wugu said to Fang Yang. Fang Yang was stunned and asked, what's the matter with this insect? Wugu laughed uncontrollably. Of course, it's related to young people. Legend has it that Warubo was killed by our tribe's ancestors, and his body turned into 100 insects in the world. Before his death, he even swore that one day a bug keeper would return to Aztec to vent his anger. Fang Yang was stunned. He never expected this kind of legend to happen. He had previously thought it was only an evil god at most. Wugu looked at Fang Yang's expression full of evil fun and said. Why, are you scared? Young man, I don't know how you did such a thing, but, before Wugu finished speaking, Fang Yang interrupted. Let's talk about why you are so clear about the heavenly selection, Fang Yang said to Wugu Dao as if it were a secret. 3 hours later, Fang Yang roughly understood the background. According to Wugu's account, Aztecs once welcomed a celestial elector when they were still small tribes. This celestial elector once led Aztecs to the era of a feudal empire with bronze artifacts, and then they lost their country due to unknown reasons. Their ancestors fled for many years, retreating to civilization and regressing to the primitive era. Of course, this is Fang Yang's summary in the original words of Wugu, which is, our ancestors once lived on vast land in huge stone houses, wielding golden weapons and wielding the rubber bug to rule everything under their feet. When Fang Yang asked for the specific time, Wugu only knew that it was a long, or many, many years ago. Stop, what's the relationship between that Luber giant worm and Varobo? Fang Yang interrupted Wugu, who wanted to continue boasting. Wugu thought for a while, and the other Yang said. Wilbur is the last Ruber giant worm in the world. It came here with our ancestors. Fang Yang was puzzled and said, isn't Warobo the evil god who devoured the world and was killed by your ancestors? Wugu said to Fang Yang. That's being deified. It said that Varobo was too edible, and his ancestors couldn't afford it, so they killed it. Later on, it changed for some reason. Wugu casually revealed this secret recipe. Fang Yang. Fang Yang sighed and said, the last question is, how did you become my initial tribe? Well, it's very simple. Your initial tribe was destroyed by us, and the rune that summoned you was received as a trophy in the tribe. Find Shuyuan www.zhaoshuyuan.com, said Wugu as he pulled out a stone rune. Fang Yang. Fang Yang glanced at the rune and stopped speaking. Wugu exclaimed in surprise. Young man, won't you take it? If you take it, you will be the leader of our Aztecs. Seeing that Fang Yang didn't directly take the rune, Wugu smiled and said to Fang Yang. I wasn't sure yet, but now I am. Fang Yang asked Wugu in surprise, why did you help me? Wugu smiled, because of a prophecy. Fang Yang took a deep look at Wu Gu and didn't ask what the prophecy was. Then, he grabbed the stone talisman and crushed it, and white light emerged from the powder of the talisman. That's right, this thing needs to be crushed, from the perspective of Fang Yang. Item. The core of Warubo, ancient, origin. Aztec type. Permission type 1. Time restricted item quality. Function. After crushing, it enhances the user's permissions. Introduction. Where did you get this from? As the white light dissipated, an electronic sound echoed in Fang Yang's ear. Detected that Tianxian 3.1000211156 has used item number A03 and its permissions have been elevated to sequence 2. After a while, nothing else happened except for the electronic sound. Fang Yang feels speechless. The level props only indicate that his permissions have been increased. Fang Yang opened the panel and searched for half a day before finally finding a very small row in the bottom left corner of the panel. The Heavenly Giver 2.1000211156. Fang Yang looked at Wu Gu, his eyes facing each other. Wu Gu couldn't help but ask Yang, what's going on?